So today we're going to be talking about unit prices, and it's likely that you've seen unit prices before, maybe in grade 9, grade 10, perhaps even in elementary school. So hopefully this topic isn't new, and it's just something that we would be reviewing and going over one more time. So unit prices, they matter because retailers and manufacturers, they often have different sized packages. If you were to go grocery shopping and you look at cereal, for example, you might see a regular size cereal box, and then you might also see a family size cereal box, which would be a little bit bigger. So looking at the unit price gives you this sort of consistent tool by which you can determine which package is cheaper. So we will discuss how to calculate the unit price, but just to drive the idea home, we use unit prices to help us compare quantities of a product so it can help us determine which one would be the better buy. For example, if we're looking at a case of water bottles, would a case of 24 water bottles that cost $3.99 be the better deal as opposed to a case of 12 water bottles at, say, $3.50? Sure, 12 water bottles at $3.50 on the surface seems cheaper because, $3.50 is less money than $3.99. But is it a better deal in the sense that are you getting more product for your money? And that's where we use unit prices to help us determine that. And as we go through the lesson, you'll see those ideas kind of manifest and come to fruition. So the warm up you should have completed independently before you started viewing this video. If you didn't do that, no problem. Just pause the video, take some time to figure it out, to put in your answers, and then you can look up the answers just to make sure that yours are correct. But as far as the lesson goes, we're going to start at the using unit prices section at the bottom of the first page. So as already alluded to, a unit price is the total price for a package divided by the number of units or items in the package. So if we were to make some sort of formula for this, we can say that the unit price is equal to your total price of the product divided by the number of units in the product. And this basically tells us how much each unit is worth, how much each unit costs. So going back to our water bottle example, if we have 24 water bottles that are sold at $3.99, how much would just one of those water bottles cost? How much would one unit, being in this case that one water bottle, cost? So let's take a look at this example provided for us. It says a 12 pack of pop sells for $2.99. What is the unit price? So the unit price is the price of one can. So we're trying to determine the price of one can. With the caveat that even though that one can of pop cannot be purchased by itself. So for example, if you were to buy that 12 pack of pop, you can't just take one can out and buy it on its own. Unfortunately, you do have to buy all 12, but it's still useful to know how much one can would cost. Again, because it helps when we're trying to make comparisons between better deals and better packages. So using our formula, the unit price is equal to the total price. So our total price here is $2.99 divided by the number of units. And the number of units we have here is 12. So if we do $2.99 and divide that by 12, we get this amount. But remember, when we're working with money, we round it to two decimal places. So this would round up to $0.25, which is the same as saying 25 cents. So each can would cost 25 cents. So the unit price is 25 cents. And again, even though we can't purchase that one can of pop, that 25 cents means the value, how much one can is worth, is 25 cents. So the value of each can is 25 cents. Okay. So let's take a look at the first question here. So it says search grocery flyers and find 4 items that are sold in a group. So this kind of, I tried to work through this idea in our mind's on activity with your flyer scavenger hunt. Um, I tapped into the idea of calculating unit prices, but we didn't necessarily delve too deep into it because I want to go through the process here in the lesson. But the idea is, groceries are filled with ideas of unit prices. So flyers, if you look through grocery flyers, there's usually items that are you can buy in bulk, and then from there that you can find the unit price. Typically, though, however, grocery stores have to put the unit price on their bin tag. So when you're looking through the flyers, it should give you the unit price. So for the sake of time, you don't have to go searching through grocery flyers. I did that myself. So common item, as we've already discussed in our previous example, that we can calculate unit prices for is a box of pop. So in the flyer I looked at, that box of pop cost $6.35, and there was 24 cans in the pack. So remember our unit price, we calculate the total price divided by the number of units. So we're going to do $6.35 divided by 24 cans, and that gives us 26 cents per can. So I'll write it as 26 cents per can. Okay? I'm actually just going to rewrite this part right here. So it's actually sold as $6.35 per 24 cans. And then the work would be, you have to do $6.35 divided by 24. Okay, the next item is buns. Hot dog buns, burger buns, all that fun stuff. So they are sold as $2.99 per 8 buns. So again, our unit price, we calculate by taking the total price, $2.99, and we divide it by the number of units, which is 8, and we get 37 cents per bun. So 37 cents. Okay, oranges is another item I found in the flyer, and they cost $4.44 per 4 pounds. So when it comes to grocery products, such as the produce like fruits and vegetables, the cost is usually determined by weight. So, you put your fruits in your bag and then you go to pay at the register, and the cashier, the register weighs the fruit, and then the cost is determined per weight. So in this case, oranges cost $4.44 for every 4 pounds. So we want to know how much it would cost per pound. So again, to find the unit price, we're going to do $4.44 and divide that by 4. Okay, so that would give us $1.11 per pound. Okay, and lastly, water. This is another very common item that we usually calculate unit price for. So if a pack of water costs $1.97 for 24 bottles, the value or the price of one bottle would be $1.97, which is our total price, divided by 24, which is the number of units, and that would give us 8 cents or $0.08 per bottle. Okay, so let's go on to number 2. It says a 2-liter glass bottle of mayonnaise sells for $5.49. A 500 milliliter squeezable plastic bottle of the same brand costs $2.39. So same brand of mayonnaise, we'll say Hellmann's. One is a 2-liter glass bottle, the other is a 500 milliliter glass bottle. So we need to calculate the unit price per liter. So we want to know how much it's going to cost for 1 liter, okay, for each of the bottles. So for the 2-liter glass bottle, we know that the total price is $5.49. So using our unit price formula, $5.49 is going to be written first because it's always the total price divided by the number of units. So we're going to divide that by, in this case, we're going to divide it by 2. Our units are liters, and we have 2 of those liters. We just want 1, so we're going to divide it by 2 to get that 1 liter. And this is going to equal $2.39 $2.75 per liter. Okay? For the next question, we have a 500 milliliter plastic water bottle. So, there are two ways you can go about doing this. The first way is using our formula that we're used to using, okay? So we would start again with the total price, which is $2.39 divided by, okay, we need to divide it by the number of units that we have. Well, we have 500 milliliters, right? But this whole question is asking us to find the unit price per liter. So the unit of measurement that we need is liters. So what we're going to have to do is convert 500 milliliters to liters. So to convert from milliliters to liters, you divide by 1,000. And that would give you 0.5 liters. So going back to our unit price formula, we're going to do $2.39 divided by the number of units. So the number of units we have in this case is 0.5 liters. And that would give us $4.78 per liter. Another way we can do it is by actually using multiplication. So 500 milliliters is half of 1 liter. So in order to get 1 liter with 500 milliliters, you would have to multiply 500 milliliters by 2, right? 500 milliliters times 2 would give you 1,000 milliliters, which is the same as 1 liter. So another way you could go about doing this is by taking your total price of $2.39 and now multiplying it by 2. Because if we multiply it by 2, we would get the price of 1 liter, knowing that $2.39 is the price of 500 milliliters. Well, when you multiply it by 2, it would give you the price of 1 liter. So this would then be the same answer, $4.78 per liter. So either or is acceptable. So which of the two containers give you more for your money? Obviously, the 2-liter glass bottle gives you more product for your money. Why is that? Well, the 2-liter bottle cost $2.75 per liter compared to the 500 milliliter bottle, which would cost $4.78 per liter. So, yes, although in the grand scheme of things, the 2-liter bottle is $5.49 and the 500 milliliter bottle is $2.39. Technically, yes, the 2-liter bottle is more expensive. However, you get more quote unquote bang for your buck because when we're looking at unit price, when we're looking at how much it costs per liter, the 2-liter glass bottle is actually cheaper per liter compared to the 500 milliliter glass bottle. So if you do need a lot of mayonnaise, you're better off just getting the 2-liter glass bottle instead of buying, 2 or 3 of the 500 milliliter glass bottle, plastic bottle. So C says, explain how you might be able to determine the better buy without calculating the unit prices. So like I was saying before, stores are required to put the unit price on the tag that you see on the shelf. So if you don't have a calculator handy, you can just look at the tag and it'll tell you how much the product would cost per unit, in this case per liter. So you can look at the price tag. Stores must display unit prices. Okay, question D says, give 2 reasons why someone would knowingly purchase an item that has a higher unit price. So in this scenario, why would someone willingly and intentionally purchase the 500 milliliter plastic bottle, even though they know that it costs more per liter? Well, the first reason might be you just don't need 2 liters of mayonnaise, right? It doesn't make sense to buy 2 liters of mayonnaise if you don't need it. So go ahead, buy the cheaper overall price one, which would be the $2.39. So you don't need as much. For example, you may only need 500 mils of mayo. Another reason is, and it's kind of related to this first one, that the 500 milliliter bottle is, overall cheaper than the 2-liter glass bottle. It's $2.39 compared to the $5.49. So sometimes we might overlook the unit price and just look at the overall price and be like, okay, the overall price is cheaper, so I might as well just get that. So the bottle itself costs less than the 2-liter bottle, so that's why someone might buy, the one that has a higher unit price. Because again, in this example, our 500 milliliter plastic bottle does have the higher unit price, but the overall bottle is cheaper than the 2-liter bottle. So because of that overall cost being less, they might just ignore the fact that the unit price is higher, which is totally fine and it's totally understandable. Every individual reason for purchasing a product is subjective, so it obviously just depends on your scenario, your situation, and what you need the product for. Okay, let's go on to the next page. So here they are asking us to calculate the unit price for each item and then select what you think would be your most likely purchase. So we will calculate these and then I'll let you know what I think would be, my most likely purchase. But you can make your choice, and then in question 4, you would have to justify that on your own. So we won't be doing question 4 together because I'll explain it as I'm going through question 3. So remember, unit price is equal to the total price divided by the number of units. So we're going to use this formula to help us answer these questions. And the reason why I'm having this formula handy is sometimes we can get confused about which number goes first. It's always going to be the price number that goes first in the division statement. So the product here is water. We need to determine the unit price of 24 500 ml bottles that cost $3.99 for the whole package. So the total price is $3.99, and we're going to divide it by the number of units, which is 24, and that gives us $0.17, which is the same as 17 cents per bottle. Next, we have 12 500 ml bottles for $1.97. So we have the total price of $1.97 divided by the number of units of 12, and that gives us $0.16, which is the same as saying 16 cents. And lastly, we have 6 bottles, 500 ml each, for $3.50. So total price is $3.50 divided by 6 units. That's equal to $0.58, which is the same as 58 cents. Personally, I would buy this water package here. I get 24 bottles, with each bottle being valued at 17 cents. So I'm basically getting 24 bottles, each worth 17 cents. Whereas, for the next one, I would get 12 bottles for 16 cents. Like, I'm obviously getting more bang for my buck with the first option. And then the last one, for 6 water bottles, each one would cost 58 cents. Like, that's way more expensive than the other two. So even though the 24 package is the most expensive option because it's $3.99, I am getting more quantity, right? I'm getting 24 water bottles, and each water bottle is essentially priced at 17 cents. So it's just a better buy. Now let's go to the coffee. So for 8 ounces of coffee per cup, it costs $1.35. So the total price is $1.35. I would divide that by the number of units. In this case, it's 8 ounces. So divide it by 8. And I get 0.17. So $0.17 or 17 cents per ounce. For 14 ounces, that costs $1.55. I would do the total price of $1.55. Divide that by 14 ounces. That would equal $0.11 or 11 cents. And then for 20 ounces, it costs $1.70. So I would do $1.70 divided by 20. That gives us $0.09. which is 9 cents. So this one up here, in my opinion, makes the most sense to purchase. Even though it has the highest unit price, it is the cheapest overall price. And personally, for me, I don't need that much coffee. 8 ounces is enough. So I'm okay with buying, you know, the cheapest overall price, but it having the highest unit price. I'm okay with that. You might have a different um, coffee selection that you would choose. Okay, hamburgers at a restaurant. So 4 ounces for $4.29. So again, total price $4.29 divided by the number of units, which is 4 ounces. That's $1.07 per ounce. 8 ounces for $6.29. So $6.29 divided by 8. That would be 78 cents or $0.78 per ounce. And 12 ounces for $7.99. So $7.99 divided by 12, that is 67 cents or $0.67. Again, I would go for the one with the highest unit price only because it has the cheapest overall price. Again, for the reason being that I don't need 8 ounces of meat. I don't need 12 ounces of meat. I'm good with 4 ounces. I get full pretty fast off of this stuff. So the one with the least amount of meat, I'll buy. It's also the cheapest one. But yes, it does have the highest unit price. It's going to happen like that sometimes. Again, it all depends on your needs, your situation, your choice. Okay, eggs. So $2.49 for 6 eggs. Let's calculate how much it would cost for one egg, so the unit price. So we're going to do $2.49 divided by 6. That is $0.42 or same as saying 42 cents per egg. Next one, we have $3.99 for 12 eggs. So we're going to do $3.99 divided by 12. That gives us 0.33. So this would be 33 cents. So in this case, I would actually purchase the one with more eggs because the unit price is cheaper. Yes, the overall cost is a little bit more expensive, but eggs are something that you're always going to need a large quantity of. So I'd rather buy the pack with a larger quantity and have the cheaper unit price in this case. And lastly, milk. So $2.89 for a 1 liter carton. Here, this is already a unit price. It's the cost of milk per 1 unit, in this case 1 liter. So we already know the unit price. It costs $2. Oops, let me just erase that. It costs $2.89 per liter. That's the unit price. Okay, so for a 2 liter carton of milk that costs $2.49, the unit price would be $4.29 divided by 2, and that is $2.15 per liter. And a thing of milk that is 4 liters in plastic bags, so like how we have it here in Canada, that costs $4.79. So if we do $4.79 and divide that by 4, we get about $1.20. So it'd be about $1.20 per liter. So which option would I choose? I would choose this last option here. So this one again, this one has the cheapest unit price. So the last two questions, D and E, I was making my decision based off of the cheapest unit price. Whereas with B and C, I was making my decision based off of the cheapest overall price. So again, it depends on the item that you're buying and what you need it for. Milk is always something that I need a large quantity of. So I would rather buy the one with a larger quantity, spend a little bit more money, but know very well that I'm getting it for less per liter compared to the other two products. So in this case, it makes more sense to buy the one with the cheapest unit price but the highest overall price. Okay, so we're going to finish off with question number 5. We're not going to do number 4 because I've explained my reasons as I went through question number 3. So we're just going to skip to number 5. So 5A says a case of 24 355 mils cans of pop sells in a grocery store for $5.99 per case. Calculate the unit price. So remember, unit price is the total price divided by the number of units So our total price for the 24 case of pop is $5.99. We're going to divide that by the number of units, so the number of pop cans in the case, and that is 24. And that gives us 0.2495. But remember, with money, we round it to two decimal places. So $0.25 per can, or same as saying 25 cents per can. So each can is valued at 25 cents. So question B says a 355 milliliter can of the same brand of pop sells in a vending machine for $1.25. So the price of this can is blank times the unit price of the same can sold in a grocery store. So what this question is saying, let's say we have Coca-Cola. You can buy a pack of 24 cans of Coca-Cola for $5.99, with each can valuing at 25 cents. Whereas if you go to a vending machine and you purchase a Coca-Cola can, that can is going to cost you $1.25. So the vending machine, one can costs $1.25. When you purchase your actual case of Coca-Cola, one can is valued at 25 cents. How many times more is the cost of the vending machine can than the one that you purchased? Well, we know that the vending machine one cost $1.25. To figure out how many more times that can cost compared to the ones that we bought, we would have to divide it by our unit price of 25 cents. So we would do $1.25 and divide it by 25 cents. And that gives us 5. So the price of the can in the vending machine is 5 times the amount, the price of the unit. Sorry, the price of this can is 5 times the unit price of the same can that we bought in the grocery store. So obviously it's a little bit cheaper for you to buy a pack of 24 cans than it is for you to go to a vending machine and purchase a can of Coca-Cola. But as with all of these questions, there might be a reason why you choose to go to the vending machine and grab a can of Coca-Cola. So C says, if you purchase 1 can per day from the vending machine, how much would you spend for 24 cans of pop? So essentially you're purchasing 24 cans of pop from the vending machine, one on each day. So we know the price of 1 can of pop at the vending machine is $1.25. We would have to multiply that by 24 because we're purchasing this can of pop 24 times. This would give us $30. So if we go to the vending machine every day for 24 days, essentially we're going to be paying, at the end of it all, we would have spent $30 on this pop. Now, for 24 cans at the vending machine, it costs us $30. For 24 cans at the grocery store, it costs us $5.99. So what is the difference between those costs? That's what D is asking us to do. They're asking us to calculate the difference in cost between 24 cans from the grocery store and the vending machine. So the vending machine, it'll cost us $30 for 24 cans of pop. At the grocery store, it costs us $5.99 for 24 cans of pop. So we need to subtract those two to see what the difference is. Whenever we're calculating difference, it's automatically subtraction. So the difference would be $24.01. Okay, so obviously it's much more expensive to go to the vending machine and purchase 24 cans of pop. But as we will talk about in E, there might be reasons someone does that. So why would someone knowingly pay a higher price for the same item? Well, sometimes when you're at the grocery store, you think to yourself, I don't need 24 cans of pop. I shouldn't be drinking that much pop. I don't need that much pop. So you just forego buying that package, which, it's fine. You don't go to the grocery store always and have pop as your number one item on your grocery list. And that's okay. You might not, whatever it is. So when you're shopping, you might not want pop. However, maybe you're at, a function or you're at school and you're just really thirsty. You're like, okay, I kind of feel like some pop in that moment. So you decide to buy a pop. So someone might willingly pay that higher price because they just might want pop in that moment in time. So they might want pop at that moment in time. Another reason is they just might be unable to buy a whole case of pop when they're at the grocery store. Like they might have other things, they might have a budget and they might need, other groceries before they can purchase a package of pop. So one might be unable to buy, oops, buy. So those are some reasons why someone might pay, knowingly a higher price for the pop. So that brings us to the end of our lesson here. For homework, I would like you to do the check your understanding independently. The answers are provided for you, but try it on your own first and then compare your answers with the answers in the key.